Hey everyone, welcome back to another awesome episode of the Assumption Effect podcast, the only manifestation podcast that you want to be listening to right now because you are with Nikki and Flossie. And today we're going to be talking about reality shifting. Woo! So, reality shifting, we've been having a lot of people ask us about this in groups and on comments and everything else. So, I'm going to get started. Like, reality shifting to me is literally just moving into the reality of the desire being yours. So, we could talk about string theory and quantum physics and go down that whole rabbit hole, but I really rather not. If Flossie wants to, she can. But essentially, there's multiple realities. They all mirror each other, but are slightly different. And we are constantly shifting realities. At least that's what I believe. So, everything you do and think and your dominant assumptions and your thoughts are what is going to put you into the reality where your desire is yours. And most of the time, we don't realize we're shifting to that reality. It's just so natural to us. It's just like waking up and it's a new day. It's the same day. And maybe it wasn't supposed to rain, but now it's raining. And, you're just on a different path to, having that manifestation. Anyway, what are your thoughts on it, Flossie? Like, what is reality shifting to you?
So, when people bring up reality shifting, I think sometimes they think that it's going to be like, you're going to just shift somewhere weird like Hogwarts and just temporarily be there and come back, or, that you have to be asleep and, wake up somewhere else. And I'm not saying it because you mentioned like you could go to sleep and wake up and be in a different reality. I'm just saying that, a lot of people sometimes think that way and not realizing that the multiple realities that exist are so similar to each other that it may seem absolutely seamless. Now, there's twice that I know of for a fact that I literally saw myself shifting realities. And I can explain, go into those at some point in the podcast. But for the most part, it is seamless. And it doesn't seem like you're shifting realities. And so for some of you that are very scientifically based, quite honestly, we don't talk about this most of the time because either people don't understand it to begin with, or because for the average person, it would be so confusing that it would just make manifesting seem so much more complicated to them than it actually really is, because manifesting is still very simple. You have a desire, that creation's already finished. You just become the version of you that has it. You become the version of you that has it by changing your dominant thought about the topic, and your 3D reality conforms. That's, the way that we usually explain some things about manifestation in its simplest terms. But like Nikki mentioned, there's quantum physics, quantum mechanics, there's string theory. Multiverse is so discussed that you could literally look at right up now on the Yale website. It's literally on the Yale website. And so essentially, multiple realities, the multiverse is, what scientists are saying is that when a significant event happens, or when an event happens, that reality splits and all the different possibilities now become a new reality. They say that these multiple realities could literally have different ways of like physics and, scientific things that we have here could be completely different. Like they could not maybe have gravity, or some of the scientific theories that work here, like about how energy is never created or destroyed, it might be totally different in that other place. They also acknowledge that there literally could be many, many different versions of us in these different multiverses and these different parallel realities that we could exist and just not even know it.
Mm-hmm.
The way I think that it relates to manifesting, and then I'll let Nikki hop back in, is, they say that when an event occurs, that is when the realities split and become multiple realities of all the different infinite possibilities. And I'm not going to say that that's not possible and that may not be what happens, but I think with manifesting, with what we know, what are we told? What are we told some of the basic theory is that when you have a desire, that creation is already finished. What you want already exists. There's already a version of you that has it. And what that means to me is that the minute you have a desire, there is a reality that's created. There is a parallel reality. There is another reality that exists where you already have what you want. So when you have that desire, that reality is created. Boom. Now that reality exists. And you end up shifting to that reality seamlessly up to you. That's how it's going to seem when it becomes your dominant thought and assumption. the 3D reality is going to start to conform. You're going to shift to the reality where what you want exists. And it literally can seem just like that.
Right. And it's just like waking up any other day. You're just in that new reality and you really don't realize it. I think, I have clients that come to me and I've used this saying many times. They want to be happily married and they don't understand why it's not happening right now. They don't understand why, their SP hasn't proposed to them yet. They may be in no contact with this person. And is it possible to shift so quickly that you could literally go to sleep and wake up somewhere in a timeline where you're married and you have your children and you have all those things? I think that is possible. Yes, I think anything is possible. However, most of the time we are limited. We're limited beings. That's what we are. Our human minds have already been preconditioned to think of natural law in a natural way for us. And most of the time, when we shift to that reality, we're just shifting into this parallel universe or this parallel reality to where things are just unfolding to bring you that desire that already exists in that reality. So when somebody's like, Nikki, I want to be happily married, like tomorrow, my SP hasn't proposed to me. We've been in no contact for a year. Well, is it possible you can wake up tomorrow married with the kids? Yeah, sure. It is. But I think most of the time, more often than not, you're going to shift slightly into that reality where you experience a bridge of incidents or experience an unfolding that would lead you to marriage. So SP starts thinking about you, SP starts reaching out to you, things start unfolding, you start going on dates, you start talking more, you move in together, you get proposed to, you get married and you have your children. And I think most of us want that experience because what are we here, like my belief, and I know a lot of people have different beliefs, but my experience, my perception of my reality is I'm here to have experiences. And I think a lot of people are here for the experience. So to just jump straight to waking up, being married with children, I don't feel like a lot of people want that. You missed out on all those things. So you're gonna slightly shift into it seamlessly, like Flossie said, in that new reality where you're on your way to your new job, where you're on your way to being married, where you're on your way to losing that weight, or whatever that is. And you may be presented with those things, birds before land, which we've talked about, to show you that you were in that correct reality, you were on the right path, and things are unfolding perfectly.
Now, I realize that some people are going to have some questions based on some of the things that we're saying. And this is where we're trying not to get like so in depth that um, it seems, unfathomable to a bunch of people. But a lot of times, types of questions that people might have when they're getting more into like talking about parallel realities or multiple realities is, well, I'm not aware of myself being in another reality. And well, you would not necessarily be aware of the version of you that is somewhere else. But that's how everyone has their own realities. And that is how everyone gets what they want, because there's all these realities to a certain extent happening simultaneously. So if two people want the same celebrity, theoretically speaking, what would happen is they each would have that person in their own reality.
Mm-hmm.
Because if that person would exist in each of their realities, and they could actually be both in the reality being with the same person and I'm not talking about to where, that person's leading a double life. I mean, there's two different versions of that people. And there's a lot of people that don't necessarily like thinking about multiple realities because they feel like, well, there's only one version of me and that's all I'm going to subscribe to. Well, I understand wanting to think that way only and why, that would be cause of concern to potentially to somebody to be like, what, there's multiple versions of me and in my other realities, I could be in other relationships, I could have another career, I could have this, that, and the other thing. Well, it also explains, the theory of multiple realities also explains how the 3D can potentially conform so rapidly. It can explain how people's memories of events seem to disappear. It can explain how people have manifested someone who has reportedly, and I say reportedly because I'm not there observing this personally. So, I can only use the word reportedly. I don't think a bunch of people are sitting here being liars in the manifestation community. At least that's not my assumption anyway. But they're reportedly stating that someone has in the 3D passed away, or they were told that person passed away. They revised it And then they shifted to a reality where that person literally was still alive, or the person that told them that the family member or friend or whomever had passed away had no knowledge of that situation and was saying that the relative was fine. And so, you know, the multiple realities can explain a lot of the things that we experience that sometimes literally don't make any sense.
Right.
And
And there's a lot of different theories. Um, not to get too into it because I don't want to confuse too many people, but there are theories that, like, when you pass away in this life, you wake up in a different reality. It doesn't mean that you're, when you shift realities, you've died in this reality because you're living different parallel realities. It's like looking in a mirror and if you're in a mirror maze, there's different mirrors, right? There's different versions of you in each of those mirrors. One, you're looking this direction, one, you're looking that direction. If you think of reality shifting as that, like, there's all these different versions of you, and you get to decide and pick which version of you want to be, which one you want to become. Do you want to be rich and successful? Do you want to be happily married? Do you want to be, um, traveling the world? Do you want to be educated? What are those things? Who is it that you want to be, and which reality do you want to live in? Because guess what? The choice is yours. You can have whatever you want.
I mean, one of my first exposures really to multiple realities was many, many years ago, and the movie's really old. And to me, it does, on some aspects of it, have a little bit more of, I don't want to say law of attraction. It's not like total law of attraction feeling, but there is some interesting aspects to it. And just because you watch something doesn't mean that you have to take everything that it's said at face value. You don't have to subscribe to every single thing that's said in it. You can take what serves you and leave the rest. But having said that, there was a movie many years ago. It was called What the Bleep Do We Know? And then there was a second follow-up one, What the Bleep Do We Know Down the Rabbit Hole? And I believe it was the first one where they were talking about infinite possibilities, which is part of the multiverse type theories. And it is that you know, they have done scientific experiments where electrons have not acted like they were expected to when they were not being observed. And they say that there's all these infinite possibilities, and the possibility that is selected depends on the perspective of the observer. So, in other words, to put that in a manifestation type of way, the reality that is experienced is based on the perspective of the manifester. So, whoever is observing whatever is happening, whatever is going on, is based on what they perceive it as and what they expect it to be, aka manifestation. And they've done multiple experiments with electrons. They've also done it with like different recordings, and the results would change depending on who the quote unquote observer was. And
Hmm.
so it's just some interesting things to like really, look into as far as expanding your mind on how is manifestation even possible in the first place. Well, it's possible because there's infinite possibilities, there's multiple realities, and you just shift to the one that aligns with, for lack of a better word, what your dominant thought is on the topic. Not that you have to have any frequency or vibration. I'm not trying to have a law of attraction conversation, but sometimes people understand different words.
Right. And I've experienced it myself. I've shifted the reality like super quickly to where it seemed impossible. And it may seem minimum to some people, but like, I lost an earring that my dad got me that, my dad's passed away, and I was really upset I lost this earring. And I had vacuumed my bedroom I don't know how many times. I know I lost it at my restaurant. I know that's where I lost it because I remember hearing it ding on the floor, couldn't find it, they had swept up. But I was home and I decided to just start affirming, and I was like, "You know what? I'm so happy I have my earring." I'd always play with it. It's the one that's in the top of my ear. And I would like feel like it was there, the heaviness of it. And I was vacuuming, and, I'm like, I'm so happy I found the earring. And I wasn't even thinking, oh, I'm going to vacuum it up. It wasn't like I was controlling the middle or anything. And I went to empty the canister so I could vacuum a different room because that's how I do it. And the canister burst open, like the bottom of it, it's a bagless vacuum. The bottom of it burst open, and it was just dust, just a mess. And I was like, oh, crap. So, I went to go pick it up with my hands and throw it away. And lo and behold, as soon as I grabbed the first thing, my earring was sitting in the middle of that pile. Now, this earring had been missing for over a month. I have vacuumed that room. I vacuum, I'm a neat freak. So I have vacuumed that room religiously. And I know for a fact I lost it at my bakery restaurant. Um, so I know that I shifted like immediately after starting those affirmations and like just going into that reality where my earring was on my bedroom floor and I found it. And I was like so ecstatic and immediately started recording it. I know it's still like in one of the groups or something. I had posted it somewhere, but I was like freaking out because I've never shifted like that quickly. And it was like so impossible to me. And then one other instance, like most of the time when I shift, like you're not going to feel like this vibration in your body and the room's not going to start shaking. It's not like a sci-fi movie where like things start contorting around you. It's seamless. Like Flossie said, it's just like, stepping out the door. Like there's nothing that's going to feel different to you most of the time. But the other time, I really wanted coffee. Like I used to crave these Starbucks coffees, like I was a fiend. And the ones you put in the fridge, the little Frappuccino ones. And I can't remember exactly because this was years ago, but I believe it was snowing or storming or something outside. I didn't want to go anywhere. My roommate was home, but he was sleeping because he worked nights, and my son couldn't drive. He was downstairs doing his thing. And I was just like, man, I really want a coffee. I went and looked, and I'm like, fuck, I don't have any. And normally I'd have like a stock of them.
Well, I remember this because you were actually complaining to me about how there was no coffee, and then you ended
Right.
up calling me back with telling me all about this.
Right. So, and then I go, lo and behold, I went and looked. You know how you go to the fridge like multiple times, you're like, what do I want to drink? What do I want to drink? And you already have it in mind what you want, but you don't have it. But for some reason, you keep looking. And I just decided, it's gonna be there. And it was. And I called Flossie and I was like, and she's like, are you sure? Like it wasn't hidden? So I said, no, there's nothing in this fridge. And just showed up. Like it was so freaking weird. I was like freaking out about it. I had to call her. I'm pretty sure it was like pretty because we're 2 hours apart. She's behind me, so I'm pretty sure it was pretty early. I'm like, guess what? It was so crazy.
Well, the two instances that I experienced, I'll just talk about them real quick. One was I was doing a research paper, and then so I was in a database. And so any of you guys that have gone to college and know what it's like to be in a database, you put in all your search parameters, you hit search, and it will bring you up a bunch of articles. And I mean, the database, of course, depending on which one, is going to bring you up different article types. So I had this long, list of articles that I started to scroll through, and one of my assumptions has always been that the lazy people pick like the ones that are at the very top, and I think that the instructors get tired of seeing the same article cited time and time again. So I've always just kind of scrolled down. Just that's just one of the things I've always done, and so before I got to the number, I said, well, I wonder if like number 35 has something that's going to work for me or something to that effect. And of course, when I got to number 35, it was an article that would work for me. And that's not the shocker. But right before I clicked on the article, I thought to myself or said out loud, I wish it was on the number 13 because 13 is my favorite number. And I click on the article and a whole different article appeared to open up. I mean, it was about a dead guy with schizophrenia. It wasn't the initial abstract or title that I remembered reading. And so my logical mind was trying to tell me, well, you must have clicked on the one above or below, even though I knew that I clicked directly on the title. And so I just think to myself, whatever. And I click the button that says back to search results. And when I did that, all the titles started shifting. They were shifting too fast for me to actually read them. I could see that there was like blue ink and, the blue hyperlink. But it was, so it was slow enough for me to see that, but too fast for me to actually read any of the words. And I would give one guess as to where I found the article. And if you said number 13, I would say winner, winner, chicken dinner. Like it literally moved to the number 13 on my whim of a preference. Now, at the end of the day, that was me shifting realities. That's literally, what happened is I had a preference. I wanted it to be somewhere else and it moved right in front of my face. And, some people might think like I do, well, electronics are the easiest thing to manipulate, and that could be true. But the next story wasn't, something that was like electronic as far as being on a, computer or something like that. I was talking to a manifestation buddy, not you, my love, Nikki, but someone that I, that was really needy that I'm not really friends with for years. But at any rate, one of those manifestation buddies that you're
Yeah.
like, at any rate, I was talking to this individual on the phone, and back then I had a wired headset for my phone. And so it was on the table that's next to my kitchen. And it was really late at night, and I wanted to go to the convenience store to go get something. I think I wanted a soda or something because I was in the middle of studying or writing papers. This was still when I was in school. And I grabbed the wired headset and I put it in my pocket. And at the time I was wearing a sweater that had really small pockets. I mean, so small that you can like barely fit a phone in the pocket sweater. And I think we all know what those type of pockets are like. There's no room. There's like this much room. And get to the store. I reach in my pocket. There's no headset. I reach into my other pocket. There's no headset. I'm digging through my car. I'm thinking maybe it slipped out of this tiny pocket. I'm looking at down the sides of my seats. I'm looking under my seat. I'm looking in the back seat. I'm going crazy looking for this headset. And like I had literally I think one pocket I had like a tissue in. I think the other pocket I had like a cough drop or something. I basically was emptying out these tiny pockets. The manifestation buddy's like, "Where's your headset?" I don't know. So I go in the convenience store, I go home. We're continuing to talk about where this headset is. Like, is it going to be on the floor of my garage? Like, where is it going to be at? Where did it fall out of my pocket? Pull up to my house, it's not on the floor of my garage. Walk into my house and we're like, it's got to be on the table. I've got blonde hair, maybe being so busy and just so distracted by talking on the phone, I thought I grabbed it and I didn't. So that was our theory after it wasn't on the garage floor. Walked in the house, it wasn't on the table. Then we're both like, where the fuck is this headset? Like, where is it literally at? I reached in my pocket and pulled it out. No one is ever going to convince me that exists on this planet that I did not feel a wired headset in my pocket. This isn't the same as having glasses on the top of your head where you're not looking for them or touching them and you're just looking all over the table for it. This is, I'm reaching in the pockets. There was no headset in there. Like I had a cough drop or something like that and then a tissue.
Right. Right.
So,
Because like turn them inside out and it wasn't there.
so it's like I shifted, I shifted into a reality where it wasn't in my pocket. And then I shifted back to the reality where it was in my pocket. And at the time, this was around the whole time period that I was trying to prove to myself how powerful of a manifestor I was and that, that I was powerful and that this 3D reality was an illusion. I was trying to I wanted to know that this 3D reality was an illusion. And that's why I say it's a partial illusion at best, because if it was hardcore facts, you wouldn't be able to change it by changing your thoughts. And you literally wouldn't be able to have the diamond earring that you lost at work show up into the vacuum canister at your house. I wouldn't have been able to have the title move just on a whim, nor would this thing disappeared in and out of my pocket if, everything was set in stone and there was only one reality.
Right. I mean, there's just so many things, but we hear stories all the time. There's stories you can look up, I'm sure, but nobody experiences it the same way. Most of the time, it's going to be so natural you don't even notice.
Mhm.
Sometimes on those rare instances, you can affirm for something and it's just going to show up, which is definitely possible. Can we do that now? Like, can Felicity and I manifest for something and it literally show up? Yeah, we do it all the time. But we still do experience it to where it unfolds. Like we know that it's coming because we know that we have shifted, we have changed our dominant thoughts and assumptions, and we're in that new reality where that thing is coming to us on the way to us or is right in front of our face. So it's just going to show up the way it shows up, and that's one of the reasons we say don't try to control the how, because you're going to completely try to for example, and I don't want to make this podcast too long, but somebody manifesting an SP, for example, they're going to the end of marriage and then they change their affirmations halfway through because maybe they got a text message, right? So now they're changing their affirmations. They're like, no, we're going on multiple dates or we're going to this family reunion I really want them to go with me on. And now you're shifting to a different reality because you were already in one reality on the path to marriage. And now you're shifting to a different reality to where, okay, well, that wasn't in the cards. That wasn't on the itinerary for reality one. So now we have to shift back to this reality to where we're going to this reunion. But now I've changed my affirmations to, oh, well, maybe I don't want to get married. I just want a relationship. And now switching back to this reality. And I always refer to it as a GPS system. Like I live in St. Louis. So like maybe I want to drive to Flossie in Oregon. So I put her address in my GPS system and I am en route. The GPS has routed me, but I'm hungry and I don't want the McDonald's that's off the road. I want to go to a sit down restaurant. So now I'm Googling restaurants and I'm like, oh, there's a Chili's or there's an Applebee's or something like that. But it's going to reroute me off my path, which is going to it's going to put an extra half hour to an hour onto my time because I specifically wanted to go to this restaurant. And now I have to reroute my GPS. And I always say, that's why you want to be consistent in your manifestation because your reality is constantly shifting. And every time you change things, you're shifting to a new timeline that's going to make it unfold faster, slower. I don't know. I'm not the one that determines these things, but that's why we say don't meddle with the middle. Don't try to switch things up. Just let the things play out the way they need to play out.
Well, and you got to keep in mind that things at the end of the day are going to unfold based on your assumptions overall. And so if I know that we've made videos before, and I'm sure that we'll make an actual podcast, like talking about um, micromanaging your, manifestations and things like that. But, when people try to control the middle, it causes a bunch of headaches. It honestly causes just a bunch of headaches. You're just creating more potential work for yourself because we all have assumptions and our 3D realities unfold based on that. And so it's also why we say don't have assumptions that don't work for you. Don't assume that one manifestation has to be contingent on the other or be conditional on another, or that, that a bunch of things must happen in order for you to get your manifestation, because you could literally shift to the reality where you have it. You don't necessarily have to lose the weight or, do XYZ in order to have SP or to have the money or to have your career. And I don't care what the 3D reality tells you, because the 3D reality is changeable by you. And even if there's something that you want to manifest and there's like, well, it only goes XYZ. That's why we say you can be the exception to the rule. You're the exception to the rule as a manifester, because you can shift to the reality where whatever you want is that way for you, where they make
Exactly.
either the exception for you or you shift to somewhere where the rules are different. I mean, I remember someone was in the VIP group and they used to say, the paid group that we have, where people can ask their manifestation questions, and they were saying that they had shifted to reality where a tax law was different. Like there was actually like different laws, and it, was very helpful to them. And so, you know, there's multiple realities. There's multiple versions of you. The only thing you really need to worry about is there's a version of you that you're aware of, and that version of you that you're aware of can be to have anything that you want. You just have to think as though you have it, change your dominant thought, and you'll shift the reality where what you want exists. And I think also reality shifting explains how people end up, having their a specific person go from a Chewbacca who has 50 hoes to like being, the dude or chick from 50 Shades of Grey that is absolutely like the best significant other ever. Like, and it's like that.
Right. They just change on a dime. So that being said, we could go on and on and on about this. We don't want to overly confuse you guys. So simply put, like Flossie said, just change your dominant thoughts and assumptions to the version of you that has the things that you want. Start identifying with that person, and you're going to gradually slip into that reality, and you're going to have everything you want. And that's all you got to worry about.
Yeah, you don't have to worry about the string theory, quantum physics, quantum mechanics, multiverse theories, all, the perspective of the observer. You don't have to worry about any of that stuff. All you need to worry about is what's my dominant thought on the topic? What do I need to affirm to change it? I'm going to affirm and persist till it shows up, and I'm going to continue to affirm, persist until it hardens into fact. It's that easy for you. But for those of you who are scientific individuals who like to know a little bit more data and, want to know maybe how this shit really kind of works, but not getting too caught up in all the scientific formulas and equations, that's our scientific breakdown for you about multiple realities, our experiences with them, and how that impacts your manifestation. You just shift to the reality where you're the version of you that has it.
That's it.
If that's it.
We'll see you guys next time.
Bye.
Bye.